welcome to Mysteries and Mimosas. I'm Max, and with me is my co-host Aria.
Hi everyone, thanks for listening. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to stay updated on all our latest episodes and behind-the-scenes content.
Yeah, and don't forget to follow us, rate us 5 stars, and spread the word about our podcast. Without you, we would just be two lonely people talking into a microphone, bickering over who's better at trivia. Which
Me.
would, well,
right now.
not really. Anyway, since Arya got 100% several weeks back, I've been in the hot seat, and I'm just going to be honest with you, Arya. I have received a lot of feedback from our listeners, and the one common opinion is that you are deliberately asking questions that are impossible to answer to save yourself from embarrassment.
No, it's not to save myself from embarrassment. It's just to put you in the hot seat for once.
Right, for once.
Right.
Because it took so long.
No, I know. That's why I deliberately chose those hard questions.
Okay, well, I hope today's trivia questions are a little bit better than last time.
Maybe. I guess we'll see. So each week we do a trivia segment from the year of the case we're covering. The idea behind the trivia segment is to mentally bring you back in time by asking each other a few questions from that time period. This week's case is from the year 1994. Hopefully you'll be able to remember where you were and what you were doing, if you were even alive then. Some of you may not have been born in 1994, but Max was 14 years old in 1994.
And so little 14-year-old Max was rocking his rat tail and his mullet.
I don't think you had a rat tail at 14.
Maybe not, but
No.
Actually I probably did. I don't
Yes.
remember. All right, well, what do you have for trivia? Let's go. Let's get this thing done.
All right.
Son.
No, I knew it. All right. Question 1. Are you ready?
Ready as I'll ever be.
Okay. What major web browser was released in 1994?
Was it web crawler?
No. It was Netscape Navigator.
Netscape Navigator. Yeah, that was going to be my second guess.
You really knew that?
I do. I remember. I used it.
I've never heard of it.
Well, I used it, and I know it. I
mean,
used both of those.
Apparently, it was like this the big deal into like everybody being able to access the World Wide Web.
Right.
And it kind of started everything off. It was.
I don't think I was using computers when I was 14 in 94. Yeah, actually, I was 1994 for sure. Yeah.
All right.
I didn't have one, but I used them in the library. Went to a computer lab.
We had one. We had a computer in 1994. Our own personal. I mean, it was like ginormous, but we had one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Next question.
Which country hosted the World Cup in 1994, where Brazil won the championship for the 4th time?
Oh, man, I wouldn't even begin to know anything about that.
I'm
just going to guess Brazil.
Oh, the United States.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
True story.
I think I would remember that.
Right?
I'm going to fact check you with my Netscape Navigator right now.
All right. Question number 3. What astronomical event occurred in 1994 when fragments of comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 collided with Jupiter, producing visible impacts on the planet's atmosphere?
It's a cosmic event happened?
An astronomical event.
Astronomical event?
Yeah, it's when fragments of comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 collided with Jupiter.
Well, I mean, I guess it would be just massive meteor showers.
It's actually referred to as the comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 impact.
Okay, well, of course I wouldn't know that. But I think I'm going to take that one because I knew what it was going to produce.
Okay,
right? Is it a meteor shower?
I don't know. I guess I have no idea.
Okay.
Okay.
Rule number 1: when you're hosting trivia, you should probably know a little bit about it.
Oh, you have to know the history of it? That's not fair.
I always come prepared, but it's okay.
No, you don't. Okay, I'm just going to do what you do. Okay, I'll go ahead and give you that one this time.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. The 4th and final question. Are you ready?
Yeah, if I get this, do I win?
No.
Oh.
What landmark agreement was signed in 1994 aimed at creating a free trade zone between Canada, Mexico, and the United States?
Oh, I don't even know. What does it start with?
N.
No clue.
Really?
No.
Okay. The North American Free Trade Agreement. NAFTA.
NAFTA. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really good at politics and stuff, so
No.
now you know my weakness.
No, I wouldn't say that. You know enough. All
I
right.
know enough to be dangerous. All right.
All right.
Real quick before we get started in this, today's mystery mimosa recipe is a grapefruit rosemary mimosa. This mimosa blends a bright citrusy note of grapefruit with hints of aromatic rosemary. It includes one part of grilled, yes, one part of grilled champagne or chilled champagne, whichever you prefer, and one part chilled grapefruit juice. And then you just add the rosemary sprigs for a garnish.
So I know our show is Mysteries and Mimosas, and we give a mimosa recipe every time. But I just want to give a shout out. We have a Nespresso machine, and today I was at the store, and Nespresso made pumpkin spice flavored pods for the Nespresso.
Hold on. Nobody
Yes.
cares. It's not fall yet. It's still summer.
I know,
Let's
but
move this along.
I love fall and I love pumpkin spice. And so I wanted to put that out there because I was super excited when I saw it today because this is the reason. We've had an espresso for a couple of years and they've never done that before. They've done it for the Keurig. They do it for a regular coffee maker, but they've never done the pods for the Nespresso.
Okay.
And then I saw it today. And
Well, how
so
was it?
it's delicious. And I just wanted to let everyone know that.
Well, thank you for the news announcement.
You're welcome. And if you'd like to show support for our show, visit dragonglassware.com and treat yourself to a set of their exquisite cocktail glasses. Enter promo code Mysteries and Mimosas Podcast at checkout to enjoy a special 10% discount on your order from Dragon Glassware.
Thank you. Okay, now we can get started. As you mentioned, today's episode is from the year 1994 in Hammond, Indiana. Located in Lake County in the northwest corner of Indiana, Hammond is part of the Chicago metropolitan area. It's situated approximately 20 miles southeast of downtown Chicago.
Okay, I actually love Chicago to go and visit there. We had a really great time last time we were there. Staying right next to the river, and we were there during or at around the time of St. Patrick's Day, and we left the day before they dyed the river green, and I was so
Yeah, I really
sad.
wanted to see that.
I've never seen that before. I mean, I've seen it on TV, but I've never seen it live, and we were so close.
That was the first time I'd ever been to Chicago to visit, and man, was it cold.
Oh, it was. It was
Yeah.
really cold, but it was so fun.
So, in Hammond, in March of 1994, in the neighboring town of Merrillville, Indiana, employees of the Mr. Soft Car Wash found something rather disturbing. They found a 5x7 black and white photograph depicting a woman who was bound and gagged and covered in plastic. When police looked at the photograph, they couldn't determine whether the woman was alive or dead, where the photo came from, or how old the photo was, but they collected it anyway.
Okay, so the employees of the car wash found it. Where did they find it?
I don't know.
Car,
I've searched through the news articles. I can't find, I don't think it came out of anybody's car because they could never connect the photo to anybody.
Okay.
So I think they probably either just found it in the trash or, maybe, I don't know, by
On
the
the ground.
vacuums or on the ground or something. But
Okay.
either way, isn't that really weird?
Yeah.
So 4 months later, on July 25th, a couple of boys were fishing near the northern edge of Libel Road in the Highland neighborhood, still in Hammond. The boys were fishing a river called the Little Calumet River, which is about a 46-mile river that runs through several communities on the northwest part of Indiana, including Hammond. And while they were out there fishing, one of the boys caught something really unexpected. Care to guess?
I have no idea.
No clue. It wasn't a fish. One of the boys pulled out a Nike running shoe, and inside the shoe was a human foot.
Oh, geez.
Could you imagine?
No, especially being a little kid. You're out fishing and you think you have a bite, and then you reel it in and it's a foot. Yeah,
Right.
That's terrifying.
Those kids they carry that memory with them today
Oh,
still.
for sure.
Authorities scoured both sides of the river from where the foot was discovered, employing divers and a helicopter in an extensive search for the remaining body parts. Despite their efforts, police were unable to find any additional evidence or remains. On September 4th, 2 children noticed something unusual sticking out from a drain pipe along the Little Calumet River. As you can imagine, their curiosity got the best of them, and as they moved to take a closer look, sticking out of the drain pipe, they found an object wrapped in plastic. Upon further inspection, they discovered the decomposed remains of a human body. The remains were discovered in the vicinity of the 7800 block of Nevada Street, just a short distance from where the boys found the foot. So when you look at the map of where the boys were fishing and where the drain pipe is, it's really just like an S curve in the river. It's just to the north of where the foot was found.
Okay.
Initially, police couldn't confirm the gender of the body because of the state of decomposition, but according to those who helped remove the body from the pipe, the size and style of clothing found on the remains led them to believe that the remains belonged to a woman. Upon examination, it was determined that the body was missing a foot, and the shoe recovered with the remains matched the one found by the boys who were fishing. The body was wearing a black leather jacket with a thin slit lining, a hooded medium sweatshirt, size 5 Levi jeans, and a padded bra with a floral pattern. So investigators considered two scenarios. Either the remains were initially dumped into the nearby sewer system and became lodged in the drainage pipe, or the remains were deposited in the river and carried into the pipe by the water's flow. Over the course of several days, the Lake County Aquatic Underwater Recovery and Rescue Unit conducted an extensive underwater search near the area of the recovery site. Divers meticulously combed through the riverbed mud and ventured more than 30 feet into the drain pipe, aiming to fully recover the remains. So the drain pipe apparently is about 30 feet into the street and connected by a manhole somewhere over there on Nevada Street.
Okay.
So I just wanted to take a second to kind of explore both of these scenarios.
So so I can make sure I have this right. So the foot that was found by the boys fishing was found in July, and then the rest of the body is found in September.
Exactly.
But
The end of July to the early September.
Okay. But they weren't very far apart from each other, correct?
No, not at all. If you look at the map on Google, and the streets, I'm sure, are the same now as they were then. It's less than a quarter mile away. I mean, it's super close. It's just within a couple bends in the river where that drainage pipe is to where the boys were fishing. But they could have been fishing along the banks for any distance.
Yeah, the reason I ask and I'm curious is I'm sure that when that foot was found, they went and did a search of that area.
Well,
And
they did, yeah.
Yeah, I just wonder why the rest of the body wasn't found then. Maybe it was in that drainage pipe and it just hadn't been dislodged far enough down for them to find it at the time. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of where my brain goes. I mean, depending on the water levels and the drainage and everything during those months or however long the body had been there, the water, it's possible the water levels could have risen high enough and started moving that river fast enough to where it would have went up the drainage pipe. But this river is not a fast-moving river like some mountain streams or larger, more turbulent rivers. Its typical flow is like a moderate pace. So I do think it's possible that, the way that the river flows, which the foot was found upstream from the body.
Oh.
So to me, it makes sense that the body would have been, upstream at some point. Unless whoever did this cut the foot off or tried to dismember the body. I mean, who knows exactly how these two things happen, but
Yeah.
certainly strange.
Yeah, for sure.
After recovering the remains from the drainage pipe, police were only able to speculate the remains belonged to a woman based on the victim's clothing. But due to the advanced state of decomposition, determining the gender was essentially impossible. Looking at the victim's clothing for answers, investigators from the coroner's office determined that the Nike shoes originated from a 13,000 pair lot shipped in 2 separate containers by Nike to a distribution site in Phoenix. From there, the shoes were distributed to the shoe store Lady Foot Locker around the whole country. So it's almost impossible to track that down to a single purchase.
Yeah.
But great effort.
I was going to say the fact that they were even able to, tie it down to these 2 shipments, it's just that once it reached Phoenix, then they kind of separated to the entire country. So makes it
exactly.
a lot harder. Is there even Lady Foot Lockers
I was
around
just going to
anymore?
ask you. I don't think so. I've not seen one.
Me either. I remember them, but I don't think they exist anymore.
To assist in the investigations, authorities enlisted the expertise of an anthropologist. Their role was pivotal in reconstructing the remains in hopes of determining the victim's race, age, gender, height, weight, all that stuff. Additionally, the anthropologist was tasked with uncovering the cause and manner of death. As you can imagine, this process was quite time-consuming, so investigators turned to the public for help. When the remains were taken to the coroner's office, they found several items in the pockets of the black jacket. Investigators found a brass-colored Clarion lipstick holder, 2 coins, a black cigarette lighter, and a house key from Ace Hardware attached to a little purple clip-style ring. So this is where I have to give these investigators credit. They published an article in the local newspaper featuring a picture of these items, hoping that someone might recognize them and come forward with information. It didn't take long before Barbara Corey came forward and identified the key and the key ring. Barbara said when she saw the picture in the newspaper, she held up her own house key to the key in the picture and thought maybe this might belong to her 19-year-old daughter, Brandy Sherry. According to Barbara, the last time she saw Brandy was on February 14th around 7:30 in the evening. So at this time in February, Barbara was working the night shift, so she was at home sleeping around 7:30 when Brandy woke her up and asked her to borrow a sweater. Brandy had plans to visit her boyfriend that evening at his house in South Hammond, but Brandy didn't drive, so Barbara wasn't really sure how Brandy was going to get there. When Barbara left work that evening, she had no idea Brandy would never make it to her boyfriend's house, and had no idea it would be the last time Barbara ever saw Brandy again. When Brandy didn't make it to her boyfriend's house, she became increasingly worried, and on February 16th, 2 days after Brandy was last seen, Barbara and her ex-husband, Lenny Samala, reported Brandy missing. When Brandy was 13 years old, Lenny reconnected with his daughter and spent the next 6 years getting to know her. After Brandy disappeared, Lenny and Barbara spent the day and night together looking for Brandy, hoping to find her safe and bring her home. It doesn't seem like Brandy's boyfriend was ever a suspect in Brandy's disappearance, and according to Barbara, her boyfriend called every day after she went missing, hoping for good news, but that news never came. So back to the newspaper article. When Barbara saw the house key in the newspaper, she picked up the phone. She called the coroner's office. Lake County Coroner Thomas Philpott and the Hammond Police Department detectives visited Barbara at her home. When they tested the key in Barbara's lock, it was confirmed. It fit perfectly. I unlocked the house. I just can't imagine what Barbara felt when the key opened her door.
Right? Or even how she felt when she picked up the newspaper and saw that and recognized that key ring and, you know, held her own key up to it and thought, that's just how scary that is for her, right? I can't even imagine the emotions she was feeling.
I think that probably what would go through her head is, hey, that looks familiar. It looks like my daughter's key. Part of her probably hopes that it is so she can have answers because she's been missing her daughter since February. But the other part is really hoping that it's not a match.
Right.
So that there's still hope that Brandy would still be alive.
Exactly.
So now that the detectives had their biggest lead in the case to identify the remains, they were able to positively identify the victim as Brandy Sherry. And they did this by reviewing Brandy's dental records. In addition to making a positive identification, the anthropologist was able to reconstruct the remains and determine that the cause of death was massive blunt force trauma and ruled the manner of death was homicide. Brandy's body was found just 1 day shy of what would have been her 20th birthday. At the time of her disappearance, Brandy was working at Boz Hot Dog in Hammond, Indiana. Brandy was described as a good girl with no known enemies. She was Barbara's only daughter. In one newspaper article, Barbara says, "In one way, it's a consolation. I know where she is now. You cannot imagine not knowing where your child is. She's been missing so long, the days turned into weeks, the weeks into months."
So, I think we've talked about this in past episodes also, the not knowing, right? How hard it is to find out that something horrible happened to a loved one, right? They're deceased, they're no longer with us. But you at least have some answers at that point. When you look at some of these families that go weeks to months to years and sometimes never get those answers, they never find their loved one. How heartbreaking that is.
I couldn't imagine the pain of losing a child, but like you said, just the pain of not knowing that you've lost a child, hoping there's always a glimmer of hope inside you that your child will return. That's what Barbara experienced from February all the way through, probably August at that point, at least September, just hoping, hey, I hope Brandy comes home. But she never did. And it's also worth mentioning, Brandy only lived about 3.5 miles from that drain pipe, and the drain pipe is about 16.5 miles from Mr. Soft Car Wash. These locations are relatively close to each other. If you look at it on the map, they're all in the same neighborhood vicinity of that metropolitan city. After the identification of Brandy's body, divers combed the river and drain pipe as far as 30 feet into the ground looking for more clues, only to find more bone fragments and bracelets presumed to belong to Brandy. The investigation failed to identify any suspects in the case, and it also failed to bridge a connection between the photograph that was at the car wash and Brandy's murder.
But that photograph determined to be Brandy though?
It was not. They never
Oh.
had any connection. It's just such a strange moment in time for that photograph to be found.
So I think it kind of begs the question then, was this possibly like a serial killer? I mean, we have a picture of another female bound. We don't know if she's dead or alive in the photo. And then Brandy's body is found in the same area, like you said, in that vicinity. So is there someone going around killing these young women?
Right. I mean, it's completely possible. It's possible that that picture could be Brandy. I think that they would have figured that out.
Right.
But
I'm
one of
sure.
the detectives in the newspaper said, this photograph could be 10 years old or more. So they never could bridge any connection between the photograph and Brandy's homicide. But I just think it's super weird that it's found just on the cusp of the discovery of Brandy's body in the river.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember, this is 1994. There's no surveillance cameras probably on Nevada streets, so they're not able to develop a suspect based or, even a vehicle, because even if they did have any surveillance camera, it's going to be the CCTVs with the tape that records over and over and over again. And who knows what their investigative efforts were in 1994. Certainly DNA was not as advanced as it is now. Maybe there's something that they could do. I'm guessing not because of the decomposition level of the body. But I don't think that this case is ever going to get solved unless somebody comes forward and says something, because somebody out there knows something.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. It's not like, for one, we don't know how she was getting from her house to her boyfriend's house. If she was walking, obviously there's no ring cameras. There's, nothing catching her walk from her house to her boyfriend's house. And yeah, I think this is one of those cases that we won't get answers to unless somebody does come forward, because like you said, somebody out there does know something. Whoever did this obviously knows or has told somebody something. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, Brandy's mom mentions that she didn't drive, but she also mentions in another newspaper article that, she had plenty of friends. And the other interesting thing that I didn't mention yet was Lenny is quoted in the newspaper as saying that in his search for Brandy, he and Barbara went out every night, spent so much time just looking for their child, never could find her. But Lenny says, these search efforts that Barbara and I did took me to places I never knew existed. I met some really wonderful people that was friends with Brandy, and I met some people that are, I think he quotes it as being like a darker part of society.
hmm.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that anybody close to Brandy killed her, but I think it's interesting that the close proximity of the recovery of her body to her house. I mean, 3.5 miles is not very far to venture from your house,
Right.
especially in a metropolitan area. It's pretty easy to get around on foot, with buses, public transportation, and things in that type, even in 1994. But I think the close proximity says something to me. It just kind of makes me think this is probably a crime of opportunity. And she probably left with every intention of making it to her boyfriend's house. But maybe somebody saw her after she left the house, and who knows what happened from there.
Right. I wonder, do you know how far her house was from her boyfriend's? I mean, was it something that would be like an easy walk or?
Well, assuming that Hammond is the same size today as it was back in 1994, which is probably not the case, it's probably bigger now. So today, the city area is about 23 and a half square miles. So I'm assuming that it's probably the same in 1994 or pretty close to it. Certainly, that's an area that Brandy could cover on foot and with the help of public transportation, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, who knows within that area where her boyfriend lived or how far away he was, but
The only thing that I was able to find in my research was that he lived in South Hammond. She's on the north side of Hammond,
hmm.
so across the city. But this is a suburb area, so who she has friends that could give her a ride. She could have been walking to the bus stop. She might not have even made it very far from her home. I mean, obviously she didn't.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that area, I think, was a crime scene that police just were unaware of. And by the time her body was discovered, the crime scene's obviously gone. So there's not a lot of information for them to go on with this.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, by the time so she goes missing in February, her body's not found for several months, and it's been in water this whole time. So, yeah, there's not going to be a lot of evidence to go off of. And she woke her mom up around 7:30 that night to borrow a sweater. So she left sometime after that, and this is in February, so it's probably dark and she's making this walk. So you're right. Somebody could have seen an opportunity and took advantage.
And the other interesting thing that came across my mind when I was reading about all the articles of clothing that were found on her, I don't know if police deliberately left out underwear, but they never mentioned any type of underwear that she was wearing other than the floral pattern bra. So either she wasn't wearing any underwear, the underwear was removed and kept as maybe a trophy or souvenir,
Right.
or they kept that secret,
Yeah.
right? To protect something in the investigation. Who knows? But if that does exist and it is in evidence, that is definitely something you would want to test.
Oh, for sure.
Despite the passage of time, Brandy's memory can only stay alive through her family and her friends and through the efforts of the detectives to try to make a break in the case. In the pursuit of understanding, every detail matters, right?
Absolutely. And if you have any information about the murder of Brandy Sherry, you are encouraged to contact the Hammond Police Department at 219-853-6300. And I really hope, someone listening knows something, because I mean, I don't know if Brandy's mom is still living, but I'm sure she has other family members out there that would really like to have answers, and Brandy deserves justice.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. This is the year 2024. This case happened exactly 30 years ago.
Yeah.
We are so close to July 25th.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy that 1994 has already been 30 years.
Yeah, 30 years since I lost my rat tail.
Oh my gosh.
I'm kidding. All right. Well, thank you for tuning into this episode of Mysteries and Mimosas. Your support means the world to us. Please consider following us, leaving us a 5-star review, and sharing our podcast with your family and friends. One more thing, head on over to mysteriesandmimosas.net. I have the website updated for Brandy's case. There you'll see some newspaper clippings, a couple pictures of the drainage pipe and the location there in Hammond, Indiana. As we conclude, let's raise our glasses in honor of Brandy Sherry and everyone in her family who misses her every day.
Cheers.
Cheers.